When a natural disaster strikes, clear and effective communication can be the difference between chaos and calm. I personally saw how crucial this was during Hurricane Beryl. So today we're diving into the communication strategies that work with a property manager who truly rose to the challenge, Michael O'Shea, Regalia Bellaterra. Thank you, Michael, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I guess I should just start by saying hurricanes suck.
Mm.
They're really, really bad. And what I thought was really impressive, the entire experience of the hurricane at the community, was your communication. You were just top notch. You were on top of everything. Before I could even formulate the question and think about sending the email in, you already had given me the answer, and to everyone at the community too. So that's why I really wanted to bring you in. And I guess before we even jump into the specifics of the hurricane or anything like that, can you just talk to me a little bit about your overall philosophy around communication as a property manager? And specifically, what's your main goal whenever you're communicating with residents, especially during an emergency like the hurricane?
Yeah, I always try to first be direct, especially if it's something referring to lease agreement policies. Those things are plain and dry. I don't cut and paste anything. I put references to the lease there for sure, and maintenance items, things as well as like trash pickup. I'm very direct at first, and then I provide examples on, the expectations, but what to do better. We understand that you all have busy lives, right? But to understand we're all neighbors as well. So I myself have lived in apartments pretty much my whole adult life. So I put myself in their shoes and understand that they may not read the lease front to back like me, right? So being direct and highlighting those main points will kind of make them understand my email and not just be like, oh, he's just regurgitating the lease agreement, right? I try to make it very personable in some ways, even though it's a mass email in a lot of cases. But my philosophy is, one, put myself in their shoes, understand their situation first, and how to navigate really any further questions. I try to put as much in that email or letter to not bore them, but to hopefully answer those questions that may just come up while they're thinking about it. I would say overall philosophy is to be direct, to reference the lease if I can, because that's what we all kind of both signed there. And then also provide examples of how we can work together and the cooperation of residents. It really helps my job every day. And to also invite them in to ask more questions if necessary and keep that flow of communication. But you asked about the hurricane, specifically power outages as well. Again, putting myself in their shoes was the main point, right? I also didn't have power for a time. And also I was in the office without power. So to hopefully deal with that a little bit better, I kind of closed my eyes and said, if I were in their apartment right now, if they were asking these questions, how would I, write that out in an email? But emergency hurricanes, natural disasters, power outages, those are something that are new to me. I was not here for the great freeze of Texas. I was not in the industry at that time, but I took, experiences from then, looking back on it, to communicate to our residents a little bit better.
One thing that really impressed me about your emails at the community, though, during this most recent power outage, was the way that you balanced the actual accurate information. And in particular, I won't mention the electricity provider company that's currently in the news, but you had conversations with them, I guess, around the power outages and things like that at the community. And so how did you find the perfect balance between providing this accurate information and not causing unnecessary panic or alarm?
Yeah, I mean, besides calling over 10 times, just to make sure that I, did the proper reporting, I asked them for an example. So if we reported that outage, what is the response time? What is the expectation to receive a text update? So I had received text updates from them on when someone would be out. I I gave our residents the honest truth, but not too much of the truth because I can't answer. I don't know how to fix a power line, right? Yeah, I would have been out there myself. I even thought of, trying to go find some linemen and ask them, hey, come over here, right? But that definitely wasn't the best situation. So I chose to first collect that information, consult RPM's upper management or corporate office does a great job at, if I come to them for questions, especially during this, do give me an honest response if I need to edit that response in any way. So I took upon myself to also look at weather reports and talk or look at Facebook stories or Instagram stories about how serious that storm was for meteorologists and the wind impact it had. And I chose to input that talking about the power outage updates because we haven't really experienced wind like that, but we kind of have the last, was it derecho back in, was it March or April? Yeah. We got lucky then, I think, with the power outage. And so I want to provide context to say, wow, this was massive, especially on the west side of Houston. And I think that provided some clearance on things, especially for our residents that aren't from Texas, that aren't from maybe even the Gulf Coast of Texas. I thought by putting that in the email, it gave them more of an idea of, hey, everybody's affected right now, but specifically for us, we've located where this power outage is. So that gave them an understanding that we were doing everything we could. So I think by showing that I was doing all this research and providing information on links to those power outages, and even talking to multiple people on the phone, even the fire department, local fire department, to be sure we had done everything we could, then I think they gave an understanding of, wow, he is doing everything. They are doing everything. RPM management and our ownership group is also doing everything they can to provide that information, as well as, contact the proper authorities.
Again, absolutely wonderful. One of your favorite emails that you sent out was right before the hurricane hit. I think the day before. Uh-huh. It was later in the afternoon. You said, hey, if you have furniture outside, you need to probably pull it in off of your patio.
Yeah.
And I came into the office right after the hurricane, and my coworker who lives in the Galleria area, he was like, oh, yeah, the table I had outside absolutely cracked because I wasn't even thinking about it. Nobody told me to bring it in. Yeah. And I have the exact same table as him for my patio. And I was just thinking, man, that could have been me if you didn't send that email beforehand.
Could have pinned you in. You wouldn't be able to get onto your patio space in the case of a fire, things like that. You really don't think about, in the panic of things. Maybe you were trying to leave town. So I think in reflection, I know this is a later question, but I maybe should have sent an email sooner, but the storm kind of turned into our path, less than 48 hours, 72 hours before. And we didn't, I chose probably not to send it that soon because we still weren't certain how big of an impact it would have. But when I realized, hey, this storm's pretty serious, the meteorologists are saying it's might have this kind of impact in our area with wind as well as rain, I think our main concern was the wind. So that's why I was like, furniture, main priority here. And I know that our residents were seeing our team prepare. So I was like, let me show you what to do to hopefully protect us all. Right.
Yeah. It was a great email. And it just goes to show that just that one little thing, you chose to do that. His property didn't choose to do that. Yeah. Now he has a broke table he's got to replace.
Yeah. RPM reminds us about that in any kind of storm, that hurricane specifically, which is probably our own. We don't really have tornadoes here, but that derecho, I don't think we could have prepared for that. But for things like this, when we can kind of predict, I think being better safe than sorry is always the best bet. Especially if, now we know that power outages might happen again, hopefully not. Yeah, I think from this experience, the hurricane season just started. We hope that we won't experience it again, but our residents now will know what to hopefully do to better protect themselves or make accommodations if necessary.
I want to ask you about your communication strategy. You chose to use emails, right? And I'm a person who just is kind of like an email only. I don't even know if you guys have my phone number in the office. I think I probably just gave you my email anyway. So what platforms are you using to communicate with residents? And then specifically, because we were during a power outage, how are you ensuring that your messages were even reaching the residents who might not have access to internet or power?
Well, first, I was hopeful that power would be intermittent, if at all. So first, I want to get email out there providing that chain of communication first, and also through a text. I chose those platforms at the bare minimum, so that they could always refer back to them, right? And a text message to say, hey, check your email. I was hopeful that there was at least some communication, or some of our residents still had power on their phone and could receive that, because I think texts were still going through. So I chose that. But when I got to the property on Tuesday, I did not arrive Monday afternoon. Our service team was there on site to check for damage, but I arrived on Tuesday morning and placed some letters on the doors in certain areas. I also tried to knock on a few residents' doors who already provided communication, hey, I'm not there. And at the same time, just went around to try and show my face. I didn't do door-to-door communication. I did not provide any letters at the doors. I did not know how the storm would progress, maybe come back through and, tear those letters up. So providing letters on our clubhouse door and a few amenities, I at least provided communication that, hey, we are aware of the power outage. Our office is also without power. We are doing our best to communicate to residents, and please refer to our sister communities. I did say that they can go next door to Premier Acadie, which is another RPM community, but they could not provide resources. They could just only answer questions, or they can get a place where they have internet and can get communication to whomever they need to. So yeah, I chose email and text primarily, and letters on the doors. I think in reflection, having someone present in the office, though we didn't have power, we did our best to. So we were present in the office intermittently throughout the day. But I don't know if that would have created any more clearance to the situation of without power. I will note that about two-thirds of our residents had were without power until Thursday at noon, while 1/3 of it had power after, I think it was 6:00 on Monday. So yeah, I think, again, in reflection, I could have done door-to-door communication, but that would have created more panic. I wouldn't be able to answer their questions. So I chose to communicate through email and text primarily, and hopefully the message got to them. And I also encourage residents that communicated to me directly. If they emailed me or texted, I said to go and check on your neighbors. If someone's not home, let me know, or check on them yourself if you can, and be neighborly in that way.
Extremely thankful that I was part of the property that got power back after 12 hours.
Yeah. We were built in phases, I found out as well, or at least phases for the electricity, or phase 1 and phase 2. So now I know our blueprints are set. So.
All right, Michael, let's go ahead and let's talk about the serious issue, the hurricane itself.
Yep.
Once the hurricane hit, what were the most frequently asked questions or concerns you received from residents?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, I know power is one of them, but what else was being asked?
Yeah, besides power, obviously that was main concern for a lot of people. It was when amenities will be open, if they were for those people without power. So that was something that, fortunately, we were able to open up to residents. Our basketball court had power, and AC, as well as our natural gas grills right there. So a lot of people asked, hey, is there resources? Though I could not provide those with, water and things like that. And initially, I offered those spaces to our residents that did not have power, so they could have a place to hang out, I guess you can say, and away from their scorching apartment. And another frequent question was, what would I need to do if there was water intrusion? What would I need to do if I did have wind damage? And so I provided a very small snippet of what to do. If people don't know, it might be common sense to most, but to make a claim through your renter's insurance, that if loss of power, you did lose your food, to make that claim through renter's insurance. And a lot of people don't think that renter's insurance can cover your food. But if your deductible is good, yeah, they typically will. You'll want to pay that $250 or $500 out. And another thing was, hey, do you think this is going to be, if this storm is going to happen again? So in the future, do you think it's going to happen again? So those are questions I can't answer. Mother Nature is completely unpredictable. Acts of God will happen. So in those circumstances, I said, yes, it may happen again. It most likely will happen again. To the severity that it is right now, I hope not. But I then would say, well, we know what to prepare for now, and I will continue to be the messenger for these things, especially with guidance from our RPM corporate office and meteorologists even as well. But things are unpredictable, so we can work together. We are a community, and I am here to help you. Though it may seem like I have power because I'm away from the site right now, I am with you, right? So a few residents tried to call me on site to answer their questions, and so I responded to that. So if they asked me to be there, I was there.
That's great. And for anyone who's listening right now, if you live in Houston, there will be more hurricanes. That's how this works in the Gulf.
Yeah.
What I thought was really, really awesome of y'all is the opening up of the amenities. Again, thankfully, I went 12 hours without power, but several people in the community went like 4 days without power, and the basketball court was a godsend, right, with the AC in there. And what I think is really interesting, so like talking to my friends who aren't from the Gulf Coast or whatever, who don't know like what hurricanes look like or how they affect things, they're like, "Oh, is everyone okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm driving back home right now." And like, there's 30 people at the pool. They're like, "They're at the pool right now? How does that work?" I'm like, "Well, it's sunny outside. It's really hot.
Yeah,
of
really
course
hot.
they're at the pool."
Yep.
So it's one of those things. Like, I guess if you're not used to hurricanes, you're just not used to thinking about, well, I guess once the hurricane moves through, like the weather's gone. Now you're just without power. So that's always kind of rough. You sent, I think I counted them, at least the ones that came to my email inbox, 9 or 10 emails throughout the entire storm, and then through the subsequent power outage for the rest of the week, which in my opinion was really impressive. Several property managers are not that communicative. They send maybe 1 or 2 emails, and that's kind of it. So I thought it was actually really impressive that you chose to send that many emails. And I wanted to ask you, could you share an example of an email or message that you felt was particularly effective during this time? And if so, what made that message so effective?
Yeah, it was after the storm hit on the Wednesday. I think it was a late afternoon update about the power outage. And I kind of spoke on this to one of your first questions, where I provided, example of the impact of the storm had, especially in our area, to explain why half the community had power and half of it didn't. That there was 90-mile-an-hour per hour winds, gusts up to 90 miles an hour, and to kind of provide just some relief to them, to let them know that I have contacted CenterPoint Energy. Sorry, name drop, and that I'm communicating to all authorities that I can, the fire department, an electrician. I had 2 electricians come out just to be certain it was not on site like our issue. And I think having sympathy for them was the most important, and empathy as well, to understand that this could have happened to me, and it was happening to me. I almost thought about providing my own experience, but I didn't want to go too far in that, so we were all having challenges in some way. But I'll provide a quote here, and I kind of just said at the end of that email, we understand the frustration and challenges posed by this situation, and our on-site team is working diligently together to gather resources for those affected by the power outage. Once these resources are finalized, we will provide a direct update for those without power. During these challenging times, safety is our utmost priority. Your safety is, and we appreciate your cooperation. And I was trying to remind them that we're there to help, and we are limited to what we can do, but at least to come to us and let us try.
I'm really glad you brought that email up, because I thought that was one of the more impactful emails that you did send.
Definitely.
Too many people that I know, at least here in the office even too, went days without power and didn't have a single email like following up. Like the fact that you had the fire department and these electricians come out to kind of look at this stuff. Maybe these other communities that my coworkers were living in had the exact same thing, but they didn't know because nobody chose to communicate. And I think being a resident of an apartment community, one of the things that I really appreciate is knowing what's going on, even outside of hurricanes, any type of major natural disaster or any type of community-wide issue. It's super important to just send that type of communication out, just letting people know what's being done, what's being looked at. It just gives you that sense of community and puts you in the know. And so thinking about some of this stuff, looking back, is there anything you wish you had done differently in terms of communication?
Communication wise, I mean, I did my best to have our team on site and present in the office. So if anything, I wish I would have had more resources to be able to be there, like a generator to power communication. So if anything, I wish I could have shown my face more. I felt I was better suited to provide communication offsite for the most part, but also to come on site when people requested it or when necessary. I feel like I could, gather those resources offsite or have our team, communicate to our residents. Thank God no one was banging on the door. I'm glad I think that really helped with providing those emails early on. I'm hopeful that this doesn't happen again, or that at least we have a generator next time. So that's actually something I'm working on, and RPM as well. I think we understand that storms like this will happen again.
Right.
And there's nothing you can do to perfectly prepare, but hopefully we will have some things in place on site to do that.
I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat this. Being a property manager is tough. It's
Can
not
be, yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
And several of our listeners also happen to be property managers. I thought you gave a master class in communication around the hurricane. I don't know if I've expressed that enough here. And so, what
you.
advice would you give to other property managers who are looking to improve their emergency communication strategies, but even more so than that, just their day-to-day communication strategies?
Yeah, first is resources. Definitely use those who are maybe mentors in your life first. Pull experiences from them and examples. Save your templates. I will definitely save templates that I've used here, and that'll help you get kind of a blueprint for how to pinpoint what communication needs to be sent out. And day to day, you want to speak with your team, get all the information on one plate and try to, piece together what is proper to send out and what may not be necessary in that moment, but maybe you can use later on. So, I mean, as far as proper communication, it's all situational, right? So I was learning in the moment. I still am. And as property managers, that you can always do better and improve. So, again, I think using all the resources you can and gathering that information and not, being anxious about it and getting out improper information, that can definitely create panic or more questions that you can't answer or overcome. So, yeah, I think the resources I had, but also, understanding that I need to put myself in my residents' shoes in any way I can, and that will help me open my eyes up to, how I can push them in the right direction or ease their anxiety a little bit as well.
Michael, the last question I have for you is a little bit more fun.
Okay.
It's something that we always ask people when they join the podcast, but how did you get started in the rental housing world?
Sure. I went to school at Texas State. My mom has been in the industry. She since she was 18. Started with the Dinnerstein companies, which is huge, and then went to Greystar. She's been with Greystar ever since. And so when I was in college, I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. I was considering dropping out, not to give too much personal information, and found a position as a CA at a community with American Campus Communities. Awesome company to work for in student housing. And from there, got out of school and decided to make it a career, joined Greystar. And I think my mom, I wasn't using her to my advantage, but she definitely got my interest in the community. I saw how passionate she was and how every day is different. Every day is different. So that's what's actually kept me in the industry for almost 10 years now. My whole adult life has kind of been dedicated to multifamily. But really, I owe that impact to my mom first, but also the mentors along the way that have kind of kept me here, because it's a job that, like you said, is not for everybody. It is hard. And it gets harder. It doesn't really get easier.
That might
even
be an
when,
understatement.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm passionate about it. I love my residents. And I think if you find that love in the community you're in, though it may not always be easy to find that love, you really have to try to be empathetic and take every day, day by day, every situation with a grain of salt sometimes too. And maybe ownership groups won't get to your head too much like they are for me some days. But again, I think there's a lot of people along my journey that have really guided me in the right way, and I hope to do the same for other people. I've been in the industry for 10 years, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else in my life right now.
I think that's exactly how this industry works, and I don't say this in a negative way, but it's kind of
Sure.
like a black hole. People, once they make their way in, they don't leave. They can't get out. They'll always find their way back. Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us
Thank you,
today.
Marcus.
All this stuff is fantastic, and if you are looking for an apartment in the Houston-Katy area, Regalia Bellaterra, hands down, the absolute best.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on another insightful episode of the Multifamily Review, folks. Huge thanks to Michael for sharing his expertise on navigating the choppy waters of communication during a natural disaster. As someone who actually rode out the hurricane in one of his properties, I can personally vouch for the effectiveness of his approach. Clear, consistent, compassionate communication. That's the key takeaway here, listeners. So next time Mother Nature throws you a curveball, remember the lessons we've learned today. And for more tips and tricks on thriving in the rental housing industry, be sure to subscribe to the Multifamily Review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and stay tuned.